23 years. That's how long the bank expected to hold a claim on your house. 2 decades and change of payments, locked in on the day you signed.
But you decided you weren't going to give them all of it. You were going to kill this loan 18 years early. And this is the story of what that actually cost you, and what it actually buys you.
Here's the fantasy. You send that final payment. The mortgage hits zero. The house is yours. No bank, no lien, nothing between you and the 4 walls you sleep inside. Free and clear. And you think that word, free, means what it says. It doesn't. Not the way you think. Let me show you the real math underneath the dream. It starts on an ordinary evening at your kitchen table. You're staring at a mortgage statement, and one number is quietly enraging you. The interest. You borrowed to buy the house, sure, but over the full life of this loan, you're set to pay back the price of the house, and then a second smaller house on top of it, purely in interest. You do that math once, and you can't unsee it. It feels like a slow leak in the bottom of your life. So you make a decision. Every spare dollar you can find goes at the mortgage, the bonus, the tax refund, the raise you just got. Instead of letting it drift into your checking account and evaporate, you fire it straight at the loan. And early on, this feels incredible, because of how a mortgage is built. In the beginning, almost every dollar you pay is interest. The bank front-loads it that way. The actual loan balance, the principal, barely moves in the early years. So when you throw an extra payment directly at that principal, you skip ahead. You erase months of future interest with a single check. The amortization schedule, that intimidating table of hundreds of payments, starts collapsing. You watch the payoff date crawl backward. 23 years becomes 20, then 17. You are, on paper, winning. Every extra dollar is buying you a guaranteed, risk-free return, equal to your interest rate. No stock market drama, no maybe, just certainty. And certainty feels so good that you stop asking the harder question. Here's the harder question. That dollar you're firing at the mortgage, what else could it have done? Because a dollar is not loyal. It doesn't care about your house. It goes wherever you send it, and it works at whatever rate that destination pays. When you send it to the mortgage, it earns you your interest rate, guaranteed. But if your mortgage rate is low, and for a lot of people who locked in during cheap years, it is very low, then that guaranteed return is also small. Meanwhile, there's another door. The same dollar, sent into a broad basket of the market instead, has historically earned more over long stretches of time. Not guaranteed, not smooth. Some years it falls hard and makes you sick. But over 10, 20, 30 years, the long arc has tended to climb higher than a low mortgage rate. So here's the uncomfortable possibility. By racing to pay off cheap debt, you might be turning down a bigger pile of money later to buy yourself a smaller, safer one now. You think paying off the mortgage is obviously the smart move. The truth is more the opposite. It's often the emotionally satisfying move dressed up as the mathematically perfect one. Let me be straight with you for a second. This is a scenario, not advice. Your rate, your taxes, your job security, how you sleep at night, all of it changes the answer. And nobody should make a 6-figure decision because a video made the math sound clean. But stay with me. Because the gap between feels right and is optimal is exactly where the real lesson lives. Now watch what happens over the first year of your payoff plan. You're aggressive. You're throwing everything at the loan. And it works. The balance drops faster than the schedule ever predicted. But 3 things are happening quietly in the background that the fantasy never mentioned. The first, every extra dollar you send to the house is a dollar you can't get back easily. It's locked in the walls. Your home equity is real wealth, but it is illiquid. You can't spend a kitchen. If your car dies or you lose your job, that money you overpaid isn't sitting in an account ready to catch you. It's frozen inside the house, and the only ways to reach it are to sell or to borrow against it, often at a worse rate than the loan you just rushed to kill. The second, in the United States, mortgage interest can, for some people who itemize, be deductible, which quietly lowers the true cost of that debt even further. So the interest rate that's enraging you on paper might be costing you a little less in reality than the number suggests. The villain is slightly less villainous than it looks. The third, and this is the one that sneaks up on people. While you were pouring every dollar into the mortgage, you may have been neglecting other places that dollar was begging to go. A retirement match at work, where an employer hands you free money for contributing. Tax-advantaged accounts, with limits that vanish forever at the end of each year. You can always pay the mortgage next month. But some of those other doors, once they close for the year, do not reopen. Racing to kill low-interest debt while walking past free money is a trade most people never realize they made. This is where the story gets genuinely hard, because none of that means paying off your mortgage is wrong. It just means the answer was never about the math alone. Watch what the payoff actually gives you in the years that follow. Your required monthly payment vanishes. That's the obvious one. But underneath it, something changes in you. Your fixed cost of simply existing drops through the floor. The amount of money you need each month to keep your life running gets dramatically smaller. And a person with low fixed costs is a person who is hard to scare. You can take the riskier job with the bigger upside. You can survive a layoff for a very long time. You can walk away from a boss who's grinding you down because the biggest bill in your life just disappeared. That's not a number on a spreadsheet. That's a kind of freedom the optimal return calculation literally cannot measure. So now you're holding two truths that don't want to sit in the same room. On one side, the math whispers that cheap debt should maybe be kept, and your dollars should go chase a higher return. On the other side, your nervous system knows that owing nobody anything lets you breathe in a way returns never will. And here's the twist most people miss. These two things were never actually enemies. Because the real move isn't picking a side. It's knowing which dollar you're spending. The first dollars of your financial life have jobs that beat almost everything. Grabbing the full employer match, killing high-interest debt like credit cards, building a cushion so an emergency doesn't wreck you. Those aren't close calls. Only after those jobs are done does the mortgage versus invest question even become interesting. And by then, it's not a crisis, it's a preference. You thought this whole story was about how fast you could pay off a house. It was never about the house. It was about learning that every single dollar you own is an employee, and your only real job is deciding where to send it to work. Now run the tape all the way forward. 10 years out, 20. In one version, you paid the house off in a furious sprint and slept like a baby the entire time. Your net worth is solid, your stress is low, and you never once panicked during a market crash because you weren't in the market with those dollars. In another version, you kept the cheap mortgage, sent those same dollars into the market year after year, rode the terrifying dips, and ended up, probably, not certainly, with a bigger number at the end. More wealth, more volatility along the way, more nights you had to talk yourself off a ledge. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Both of those people are fine. Both of them won. They just optimized for different things. One for peace, one for growth. And the tragedy is only the person who never realized they were choosing it all. So here's what I want to leave you with. Most people treat pay off the mortgage as a yes or no morality question. Good and responsible, or reckless and behind. And that framing quietly robs them, because it hides the actual decision underneath. The real question was never should you pay it off. It's where does this next dollar do the most good? For your wealth and for your life at the same time. Sometimes that's the mortgage. Sometimes it's the match. Sometimes it's the market. Sometimes it's just a fuller emergency fund so you can finally stop bracing. Because the day you stop asking how fast can I be debt-free and start asking where does each dollar work hardest for the life I actually want, you stop being someone who reacts to money and you start being someone who directs it. You started this thinking the goal was a house with no loan on it. Now you know. The house was never the prize. The prize was becoming the person who knew exactly why they chose it. That's the day the number on the statement stops running your life, and you finally start running it instead.